Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a very quick landscape. And again, I'm using black tape to secure the paper. I'm using Saunders today. And I also taped the board to the table. And I'm basing my painting on my plein air quick sketch that you can see here. I actually gonna put a little cows right now. Just a couple of them here. They more or less look like a little square, right? They don't need to, you just have to have an indication that this is something moving or in the field. Okay, so I am gonna start with a little bit of blue. From my sketch was not a very shiny blue, was just pale sky, and I'm just gonna go and start adding. If you have watched my videos before, I have a tendency to go with dry brush a lot. Just adding. Is a winter sky, so you always have and if you don't like sharp edges on your clouds, you can always come back with a dry brush and make some nicer edges on your clouds. Just add some variety as much as you can. I want this edge with the sky to dry nicely. Now I'm going to start adding some colors to the field. Not too worried about them. Also good to add some violet. Oops, some hair. Take the hair off. Some brush strokes. And now is the time to go to a smaller brush. I'm just checking to see how wet is this paper. Sometimes during the winter months, I paint with this personal kind of heater nearby, just to help the paper to dry a little quicker so we can continue. I think I can start adding. I have a smaller brush here, and I'm going to just test to see if I'm able to add this posts. And if they are too dark, which I think they are right now, I can always remove some of the paper painting, as long as I do it gently. And if it's too wet, you see it spreading, and then you just stop, give it a little 5 minutes, and come back when it dries. Work a bit on these posts. I'm gonna use a piece of metal just to create some texture. I had a video that details this process. If you are interested in texture. It really changes how the paper receives the paint. Some darker value of gray. Some water. And again, a little piece of metal, just to scratch the paper, create some texture. You can also sand your paper. Now I'm putting some water. That would be like the gate. And again, I want to add paint. And after I add paint, I can come back and add some texture. Adding texture, usually you put more pressure on the paper. It makes the camera to shake more. I'm gonna start making some choices how I want to go darker. When you're mixing your colors. Just enough for the viewer to recognize what they're looking at. I'm gonna go back to my oval wash and I will do a very light gray wash and cold on the roof, and then I'm gonna go all the way down. I want to cover all this area. Trying get the base darker. I want this to be a little bit here, and you're gonna see why in a second. I will put some red on this area. On this roof here. And I'm gonna go back to original gray. And I'm mixing a bit with this red. I don't want this red to be super red, meaning I don't want a flashy kind of red. This is still very wet. Let's go back down where I can start. Just gonna put a little bit of a very dark color on my little cows here. And you can add as many details as you feel like if you have cows here. Making some values. So I'm gonna get a little piece of paper. In my case here is a napkin because it's Thanksgiving and everything about food and napkins. And my brush that is very, very dry. And I am gonna pick some color, some field color. And I'm gonna create a kind of a hill here. Too much paint. Create some foliage. And I'm gonna put some of this foliage down here. You can use a comb brush. I do have one, but I don't have one here with me. So I'm just using a dry brush. Probably you should not treat your brushes like I do with mine, but once in a lifetime. Again, just trying to create interest. We always try to create interest. So your viewer can be always sorry. I'm putting a little tiny bit of red. See if I need a little bit more of vegetation. If I want to create vegetation, again, do a little bit here. It's a little stamping, but it looks nice if you have an edge. And you can also use an old toothbrush with a bit of paint. And of course, then you cover the areas you don't want to, like the sky, and apply very little. It doesn't, when you splash in color, usually you don't need to be visible. Like, you don't want to really call much attention to it. You just want to add texture. And create some interest. Now I look to my reference. Of course, it becomes very different with time. And I can now make a decision if I'm gonna leave the sky like that, or if I wanna add a tiny bit more blue to the sky, which I think I am going to do, which is gonna come on the side, and immediately I'm gonna soften it. I add the color and I immediately soften it, adding more water, not paint. And I can add water to the rest of the sky. And if I am happy with this, I can start building some of these trees. So this is a very big brush, it's a number 12, but it's very, very pointy. So I will be able to create my trees here, and I'm gonna be very fast and very loose because I just want to give a hint of that something is in front of this. And if I think I did enough, I can go here and stamp it out. It's always a play with putting paint and taking it out, always like that. Same thing here. Is something very interesting here in the Midwest, is that people like to hide their property behind trees. And this is a good time to put some fall colors here. See, this area is wet, so I can create some effects without there you go. And I can put the same quinacridone here. If I want, I can spray some water, but I don't really want. I could splash a tiny bit of clean water. Just a little bit. Oops. Kind of like this. You can always put clear water and approach it, and then you Can make a little splash. It's just a splash in pure water that I'm gonna leave alone. I need to think if I need more trees. If I need more trees, where I want them to be. Going back to the posts. And how am I going to do something that looks like a wire that is very loose, but it needs to be very thin. If this is barbed wire, you don't want it to be perfect. You do need some hinder here, and I'm going to invent them as blue because I want to. And I'm going to start working more seriously on the shadows. This paper behaves different. And I will need a slightly bigger brush to start working on the shadows of my objects. And the trick now is to find the right dark for the job. How dark do I want this to be? Do I want this to be completely black? Do I want the shadows to be super dark? And I'm gonna start right here. And it's always a lot of fun, I think, for me, because I like to paint shadows. To find the balance. Don't forget, we keep the same angle, more or less. There is a shadow here coming. There you are. I need here, a bit of here. I want this area to be darker. The shadow of the side of the barn is just slightly lighter or same color as the barn. And you can always add some texture like that, sideways, with your brush. That's enough. Texture in watercolor is always dangerous because we have a tendency to put too much. Same thing is this complex here. Have those beautiful trees and all the houses, and there is a lot happening, so you can be very loose and creative with whatever you think your shadows should look like, because we're not seeing much of it. We know that there are things. Don't forget the shadows of the trees, those that are near the house. They make some shadows on the barn. Yeah. If you feel like touching your paint, touch your paint. I'm gonna have to go back here and redo this tree. There is some shadow area here. A lighter value for the shadows of this this grassy area. You can always go back and redefine, so don't worry too much about it. You just want to create some angle that there is light coming. We needed to work on the posts as well, so we want to create some movement. So instead of doing a straight line, we're gonna do a little movement. So my shadows are gonna start very small here, and they are slightly turning, oops, a little more, and they disappear at the edge of the paper. And I go back here and add this one. You're not seeing because it's out of the paper, but you can. And we are like almost done. And I will add a tiny more bit of blue right here. And what I will add when this is completely dark is a better trace for this tree here. Maybe the indication of a few branches here. And I will sign somewhere down here. Looks like a good space to do it. If you want, you can always add a little darker here with a thinner brush and probably a greener version of your color, and differentiate a little bit more between the shadow and the grass if you want. All right, that's it. Now it dries and we look upon it and wait it until it's done drying to add other elements. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Have a good holiday season.